Well, Georgia's race for governor is heating up the campaign trail with both candidates making big, very public moves.
So you've got Republican Rick Jackson, who's taking on Democrat Keisha Lance Bottoms. Bottoms holding a town hall last night that was geared toward black men in Atlanta. The event was called a Mandate Conversation. It was held at the gathering spot in Northwest Atlanta, and Bottoms talked about her plans to bring down costs if she's elected. She also said that she understands what's important to black male voters.
I'm a mother for 3 sons, and so the things that I hear them talk about are the things I say my kitchen is my best focus group, because I listen to my 24-year-old son, those things that they're concerned about. Everywhere I go, people are talking about the cost of living, how expensive everything is. People are talking about the cost of groceries, the cost of gas, the cost of housing. Now we are adding health care to that, which has already been an issue.
Bottoms also answered questions about her plans to expand access to health care and invest in education if she's elected.
Republican nominee for governor Rick Jackson is spending big on his own campaign, this time with an $87 million ad buy for the general election. Jackson's campaign says it's the largest general election ad buy so far in this race. It covers TV and digital spots that start airing August 1st. Last week, Jackson shared a stage with President Donald Trump at Cobb County and spoke about affordability. Jackson, a billionaire healthcare executive, has already poured more than $100 million of his own money into winning the primary. Election day is November 3rd.